Welcome back to Extra Innings. Buck Bellew here, ready to talk a little Atlanta Braves baseball, as today we sit a little over a week from pulling back the curtain on this 2023 season. So we are getting ready. We're excited around 680 The Fan, obviously. We are the home of the Braves and been doing a lot of cheering here over the last couple of years. So really excited about the start of the season. Let's talk about this opening day roster and what it's going to look like. And we'll start at the shortstop position, which has really been the talk of the town here over the last couple of days, with the bold, really surprising move that was made as the Braves just a couple of days ago sent down both Vaughn Grissom and Braden Shoemake, both sent down to AAA Gwinnett in the camp, and that's where they will start the season there in AAA. A surprising move. Gosh, you look at Orlando Arcia, who is going to start the season at shortstop for the Braves. He played less than both Grissom or Shoemake during spring training. So forgive me for falling into this idea that either Grissom or Shoemake was going to be the opening day starter at shortstop. I think a lot of us were sort of surprised with the way that came down. Surprise, man. So shifting gears pretty quickly on that. Look, as I understand it, this would be the deal. The deal is Vaughn Grissom was just not ready to play shortstop at the major league level, and it was the defense. Defensively was the concern. No shift this year. These shortstops now have to cover a lot of ground as far as the range goes, and that looks like the weakness of Vaughn Grissom defensively is the limitations as far as the range goes. Can he go in the hole between short and third and make that play? Can he go up the middle behind over second base and make that play go into his left and make the throw over to first base? He's a big guy, 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds. And so there are some limitations there on the range defensively that I think that's holding Vaughn Grissom back. Now with Braden Shoemake, it was a different concern. For Shoemake, he could pick it defensively, going in the hole, going up the middle and making those plays. He showed that during spring training. His concern was offensively, can he swing the bat good enough against major league pitching to be an everyday shortstop in the show, is the concern with him. There's some limitations there. So ultimately, the Braves decided that Orlando Arcia was their best alternative to be their everyday shortstop, at least starting the season. And look, I think a lot of it had to do with the comfort factor. Arcia was an everyday shortstop for the Milwaukee Brewers for 2 to 3 years. And so there's the experience factor of having been there and done that I'm sure Anthopoulos and the decision makers factored that into that decision there. As far as where does Grissom and Shoemake go from here? Well, obviously they're going to AAA Gwinnett, which is not where they want to be. But, I think it's important, number one, to keep a good attitude. Yeah, you can't get down on being sent down. I mean, there's a big difference between being in AAA and playing baseball in the show. And so it's got to be disappointing for those two guys. They probably felt like they were so close to making it, which is every ball player's dream, is to get to that major league level. Now they're back in AAA, back in the minor leagues. But it's important for them to keep a good attitude. Number two, get back to work on those weaknesses, or what the Braves ultimately felt like was what was holding you back. So for Grissom, continue to work hard, that work ethic on improving your defensive skills. For Braden Shoemake, it's important for him to continue to work on swinging the bat, putting the ball in play. So when you do get that opportunity, you're ready to go. Number three, I think it's important for those guys to really get off to a good start in AAA too. Keep pushing. Keep trying to show the Atlanta Braves that you're a good alternative. Let's say Arcia gets off to a slow start. If you get off to a strong start, then, maybe the Braves are saying, okay, well, let's our next best option. Let's bring him up and give him a shot. Now, look, I must admit, I am missing Dansby Swanson more than ever right now. Dansby, as I look at those free agent shortstops from this past free agency offseason, I think I mentioned on the Buck Belue show this week, I would take Dansby Swanson over any of those shortstops. So let me, revisit that and say I would take Dansby Swanson over any of those big money free agent shortstops, with the exception of Trey Turner, who was just fabulous in that World Baseball Classic. But there's going to be some drop-off at shortstop, and that is a little bit concerning to me because it is a premier position on the baseball field. So go ahead and get ready. There's going to be some drop-off from Dansby Swanson and what he was bringing to the table and what Orlando Arcia will be bringing to the table this year. With Dansby, he was bringing you a Gold Glove caliber defense. He was swinging the bat. Dansby Swanson was a guy that could run the bases. We're talking about, a guy that had the total skill set as far as being a major league shortstop goes. And, the strength with Dansby and why I'm so passionate about what he was able to do was the intangibles that Swanson brought to the table. He was outworking everybody. This guy's work ethic was as good as there was in Major League Baseball. So that work ethic, outworking people, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss Dansby's passion for the game. I think he was truly one of those players in Major League Baseball that was showing up every single day with one thing in mind: winning a baseball game. And when they had a doubleheader, he was focused on winning 2 baseball games. So I'm going to miss that intensity and focus on winning baseball games. Number 3 was, as far as the culture goes, was the heartbeat of this baseball team, I thought. He also was a great teammate, awesome influence in the clubhouse. I just don't know if you can easily replace those things. And I also believe, too, that the Braves they didn't have to get up to $177 million to re-sign Dansby Swanson. So I'm still a little bit disappointed with the Braves not being able to lock him down to a long-term contract. I totally believe he would have taken less than the 177 to stay here in Atlanta, to continue wearing that Braves uniform. But I guess at this point in time, it is truly water under the bridge with him moving on to the Chicago Cubs. So it's a little disappointing, but we got to move on. Arcia, back to Arcia, all right, with the Milwaukee Brewers, what he brought to the table during those 3 years as a starter. He's a career 243 hitter is what Arcia is. His full seasons there in Milwaukee as the shortstop, he was hitting 10 to 15 home runs, driving in 50 to 55 RBI per season. He was also making 15 to 20 errors defensively. So again, you see my concern about the drop-off at the shortstop position with Dansby moving on. The other thing I'm a little concerned about coming into the season is the Braves' starting rotation, the pitching staff. No reason to worry about Max Fried. He's been spectacular at spring training this year. I just, expect him to continue to be the ace of this pitching staff, a guy that you can count on to go out there and give you a chance to win every time his spot in the rotation comes up. The concern right now is with take a look at what they're doing with Kyle Wright, who's gotten off to a really slow start because of the cortisone shot he took in his shoulder prior to spring training getting underway. It was a big setback. Last week got his first start in a spring training game. Got another one coming up here in a few days. He's thrown some live BP. He's going to throw, as I understand it, a simulated game against the AAA team as the Braves break camp and move out of there to start the season. And the hope is that Kyle Wright's going to join him in St. Louis, and they're going to plug him in the rotation at that point in time. But, I think the Braves will be really careful about doing that because he's such a big part of that rotation. 21-game winner, only 20-game winner in Major League Baseball last year. So, we need that to hold off the competition, but I don't see them rushing him, so I'm a little concerned about that. So we're going to start the season feeling good about Fried as the ace of the staff. Spencer Strider is another one we can feel really strong, encouraged about what he's done down in spring training. He's a guy that's trying to develop a third pitch. He's got the fastball, he's got the breaking ball, and now he's trying to develop that changeup that might help him get deeper into the games this season. But I'm expecting a lot out of Spencer Strider this year. He's healthy. He's got that fastball that's topping out over 100 miles an hour. So I know you're excited about Strider too. Charlie Morton's another guy. I know first thing you think about, well, Charlie's old. And it is true. Charlie is a little bit old. But a year ago, he's coming off that broken leg out of the World Series. So he got off to a slow start in the season. And then as the season went on, he settled in and pitched a lot of outstanding baseball for us down the stretch. So I'm expecting to see that starting the season this year. So we've got Fried, we got Strider, we got Charlie Morton, who are ready to go. And keep your fingers crossed about Kyle Wright. And go ahead, we're going to be expecting to get a little help out of these youngsters too. So we got Bryce Elder, who we saw a little bit last season. Did a good job. They're going to call on him at some point in time. You got Jared Schuster, the Braves' top-rated prospect coming in this season, and he's made some noise down at spring training camp and it's looked good. He's really developed quickly. Maybe Schuster's going to be able to help more than we ever imagined coming into this year. Dylan Dodd, another prospect that has looked like he's close to being ready to be a major league pitcher, join the rotation. And those are all good things because over the course of the marathon season that is 162, you're going to need a lot more than just 5 quality starters to run out there, especially against this competition in the National League East. So we're going to need Schuster. We're going to need Dylan Dodd. We are going to need Bryce Elder during the course of the year to come up and plug and be really solid in that rotation. Not counting out Ian Anderson, too, as he's gone down to AAA camp and he's working on his game, trying to make it all the way back. Don't count out Mike Soroka either, as we hope that he will be able to get past those 2 really devastating Achilles injuries that he's trying to overcome. So, those are my concerns coming into the year. Shortstop, what we're going to be. What's the drop-off going to be like at shortstop? How big of a drop-off will it be? And then the health, the effectiveness of this rotation. When healthy, it looks like one of the better rotations in baseball, but starting the year with a couple of concerns there. So we're going to pull this curtain back in 8 days and see what we've got. I know you're all excited about it. We're going to score some runs. I mean, you look at that batting order we've got. We're going to score some runs. But, how's that pitching staff going to look? So keep your fingers crossed on that one. And wanted to touch on finally here is the competition in the National League East. Now, look, the Marlins, they've got a lot of young prospects they're trying to groom up down in Miami. Washington, it's really sort of the same thing there with prospects. They've gotten a couple of deals. Those 2 organizations are going to be at the bottom of the division. But I tell you look at the Braves, look at the Phillies, you look at the Mets, you're talking about 3 teams that have a chance to make it to the World Series this year. And I would challenge you to look at any other division in Major League Baseball and try to come up with 3 teams in that division that are really serious contenders to make a run at the World Series. This competition's going to be fantastic in our division this year. The Mets are all in, obviously, with all that money they spent in the offseason. You got Verlander now with Scherzer talking about a great 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation. Man, that looks pretty awesome as they get the season started. They won 101 games last season, as you know. So, it's going to be fun to watch the Braves and Mets going at it. And the Phillies, too. They've added Trey Turner to an already loaded roster. Trey Turner, as you saw in the World Baseball Classic, at the top of his game. He is a true most valuable player candidate coming into this 2023 season, and will bolster what the Phillies have. Bryce Harper should be back by June, coming off the Tommy John surgery. He'll be motivated and give the Phillies a big boost coming up later this summer. So Braves, Mets, and Phillies, man, this is going to be awesome in the National League East this year. Braves looking to win their 6th consecutive division title. So thank you, Atlanta Braves, for giving us a quality team here in Metro Atlanta to cheer for over these last 5 years, including a world championship. So I'm excited, man. That World Baseball Classic has got me fired up about the season. And looking forward to see Acuna bust out and get off to a quick start. And for the Braves, Lord, I hope we don't get off to another slow start like we did last year. I think it's important for us to get out and get going early in the season and sort of set the tone instead of hovering around that 500 mark like we did last season. So those are my thoughts on the Braves getting the season underway today. We appreciate you hanging out here on Extra Innings, and hope you're going to join me on the Buck Belue Show weekdays from 10 to 11 on 680 The Fan.